Hey, everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Life Beyond the Field with the Coyote Brotherhood. I'm super excited to get joined today by Pat Cooper, John Russell, and our featured guest, Brian Thompson. If you guys have not been plugging into these amazing sessions, we're all about trying to connect Brotherhood members from different generations and feature stories of different members from all different walks of life, different generations, age groups, and be able to kind of benefit from their life experiences and their personal journey. And we get a chance today to talk a little bit to Brian Thompson, and I think you're going to be amazed. This defensive line knucklehead ended up having a pretty amazing career, and he's still doing some amazing things in his life and his family and his work life. And JR, can't wait to dive in here, and I want to hear some stories about these knuckleheads over here on the right-hand side, because every time I look at a picture, these two guys are standing right next to Brian. So let's jump right into it, JR. Take it away.
All right, great. Great. Again, Brian, thanks for your time. We really appreciate it. And, let's just kick it off here. But, if you could share with us, just kind of a quick recap on your background, where you're from, some of the experiences playing for the Yotes, and then some of your experience and memories with your Coyote brothers. That would be great.
Yeah, sure. Hey, thanks a lot. And first and foremost, thanks for putting the Brotherhood together. I mean, it's been a tremendous way for me to reconnect with a lot of individuals that you just lose contact over time. Life gets in your way, and this has been a beautiful opportunity to get back and feel that Coyote blood red again. So really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I grew up in a small rural community in Northwest Iowa, Emmitsburg. I actually lived in Cylinder on a farm. Brother still lives there and runs the family farm, but played for the E-Hawks, defensive end, tight end, and became aware of the Yotes. Probably my junior season. Our quarterback at the time was a senior, Mike Thompson, no relation. It was being recruited and ended up coming out to USD, and so that was really my first exposure to USD. And then after the senior campaign, high school, did a few visits to different universities and smaller schools, and decided to do a walk on at South Dakota. So walked on as a defensive end, rush linebacker type position, and had a lot of fun with it. Our that was 86 was our first year. So, I'd like to say that we were the only team that ever held, the 86 Yotes offense to under 100 yards rushing. All right. And the only reason we were able to do that is we started from the 10-yard line. So it wasn't like they could run down the field on us. But, having the fun of playing against McFarland and Patrick and Sluggo and Hambrick and Jonesy and Southwick and all these guys, you're just like, man, they're bigger than life. And a lot of them proved it after football as well. So it was a great experience running the scout team, as crazy as that can sound. But they taught you what it takes to accomplish what your goals are. So I think we took a lot away from that our freshman year, as well as a lot of bruises and busted up knees and whatnot. But we had a good time doing it. Came back my second year, which would have been the fall of '87. We just were decimated with injuries across the defensive line. We lost Heichel and Mollett and Vondra, and it seems like there's Ryan Harmon. So between all of the defensive line positions, there's 4 of them. So there's some younger guys, myself included, that got thrust into being time to play, not being ready to play. Yeah, but next man up, right? So we ended up that year 7-4. I got to play a lot as a freshman. Had a couple, several tackles for losses that made the highlight film that year, but also had a couple that I didn't want anywhere near film. So I think that's for everybody that's out there. Had an injury my sophomore year, so I was out for most of it. Came back, and then my junior and senior year started every game across the defensive line, from whether that was at a 5 technique tackle or whether it was out as a rush linebacker, and played most of my time as nose guard as as my senior. So Bush, yeah, I met up with you senior, you centers a couple of times.
We had you counted as being the dumb guy, but after seeing the accolades that you've had after your career, you were in the wrong side of the ball, I guess. But
No, it was a lot of fun playing with those guys. I mean, I think of like Rob White. I hadn't seen Rob White in over 30 years. Well, since we left, he left in 87, I think, or 88, something like that was his senior year. And went on, played a couple of years in the pros. But I hadn't seen him since the Brotherhood this past year. And it was great catching up to him and with him. But I had to remind him, they always paired me against him to run on the 40 times. And I was like, man, he was a big guy and he was going to the NFL, right? So that I swear I told him this at the last Coyote Brother. I told him, I swear I beat you. And he goes, you did. And I said, but you had the better time. He's like, I did. So that's the way it worked, I guess, for a couple times. But lots of fun.
Well, hey, Brian, you 4-year letter winner and a great career athletically for the Coyotes. Then you transition into your professional life. Share with us if there were any tough moments, any challenges that you had to overcome, and maybe your athletics helped you overcome them.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right. I mean, I kind of look at that. Every decision you make in life and in business is a challenge, right? And it's how do you some of those challenges are bigger than others, and it's how do you deal with those challenges? How do you really, how do you get buy-in? Because that's what it is. If you're taking a position on something, whether it's a position on where you should take a company or whether you should hire the next person, or how do you promote the next person? If you take a position on it, you got to get buy-in from it. Otherwise, it's the difference between having a good outcome and having a great outcome. And so I think when you look at what you learn in football and athletics, and I think football is probably a more unique team sport than a lot of the others from the standpoint. There's brotherhoods in all the sports, but you're dealing with injuries constantly, and whether it's you aren't in the right position to make the play, and somebody's gone and somebody steps in. I mean, there's always challenges that you face, and it's how you deal with those. I've always dealt with it is I needed to get buy-in, but I couldn't get buy-in. You had to use the same consistent logic. You had to use you couldn't change the facts to meet a narrative. You had to you followed the facts, and that became the narrative. And I think there's no absolutes. I guess there's death and taxes that are an absolutes, but otherwise everything else is kind of up in the air. And the ability to think about those things and changes that are going to take place, and what do those changes and facts mean to the decision that you made maybe a month ago or a year ago, and should you readjust that decision? It's about being open-minded enough to say, okay, it was right at the time. It's not right now. Let's make some changes and move forward. Kind of think about it from a college perspective. How good would a coach be if he didn't make any adjustments at halftime? Right? I mean, if you just can't run them with the same plan, regardless of what the facts were, just because that's what you wanted to do, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's probably not a winning strategy.
yeah. Hey, Brian, I want to ask you more of a vocational question. You left University of South Dakota. You got one of 3 internships to KPMG. You had obviously a startup career there, and you went from being an intern to becoming the C-suite chief financial officer for a company that went from being a couple of $100 million to a $1 billion company. And you had a whole lot of other things that you did there. That's a lot of years to sum up, but if you could sum up your career trajectory and how you went from being an intern to being, a high-level executive and a senior executive for over 30 years, What kind of advice could you give some of the Brotherhood members on how to have that level of success?
Yeah. You know, when I left KPMG, I went to work for a private equity firm as their CFO, and then ended up becoming a partner there and doing a number of private equity transactions. But the guy that founded it, his name is Jim Gordon, and he had a saying that you know, when you're thinking about things, think about what you're going to say, and think about what the reaction to that can be, because the reaction can be all over the place. So if you haven't thought far enough forward to think about what the reaction to what you're going to say is, probably should back off and not maybe say that until you figure that piece of it out. And it was really about, you know, don't burn bridges, because you never know when you're going to have to cross them again. And so I think you learned different things from each of these individuals that have had the opportunity. You know, some of these guys that I dealt with were, you know, purely data driven, right? Show me all the facts. And then you had Bill Krause, who was transitioning out of the come and go at the time that I came into it. He was all gut, and he loved gut and marketing, and he loved people. Just he couldn't get enough of just talking with the people that worked in the stores and the people that came into the stores. So his approach was all the softer side of it, with a goal towards customer service. And then you had others along the path that were let's find some sizzle in this. John Papajohn, the venture capitalist, he's let's find some sizzle along here, because I know we got some steak someplace. And he was all about how do you blow things up, right? And and both of these guys, God rest their souls, are just wonderful people to work with. And we also had our challenges, right? It wasn't always roses every day that you went to work for these guys. They didn't get to where they were by not being strong-headed and smart individuals. So you learn how to deal with it. I think buy-in, and we talked about it a little bit earlier. That's the biggest thing in what has been in my career. Whether when I came out, it was should I be going to KPMG, and my goal is to come out of there with them saying, yeah, you should go to KPMG, you should be there. And then when I left KPMG, it was should he be at private equity doing that? And when I came out of that, I was there. And then went into the private industry. And can you lead somebody at that time? And so you're always trying to figure out how to move through your career. I think what I found is I never regretted a single move that I made long term. Might regret some pieces of it, but I've learned something from every one of the individuals that I've had the opportunity to work with over the years. And their mentorship is what you're trying to bring out in the Brotherhood. And I think that's the right ticket for it. Is how do these guys make it? And I looked at it and said, just everything was an opportunity for me. And I never said no. And didn't always say yes, but it was I'll take a look at it and understand it and see if it's someplace that we want to go. But being able to be around these guys and just be in the room, I guess, right, as they're going through the process, you learn so much from it. So, but always go for if you're going to succeed, you're going to be able to convince people to follow you. And so being able to get buy-in is the key part for it.
Good deal.
Good stuff, Brian. I mean, it's funny, I think, as the Brotherhood, when I look back, we're about 8-9 years in, and buy-in is really important. And you're right. And I think, that's part of what we're trying to do here is, get some of the guys to buy into it's not about fundraising. This is far bigger than that. And really, it's about us trying to help the young guys. Yeah. And you sharing messages like this, And I think you're right. The buy-in message is valuable for all of us as we go through life. I mean, I gotta get buy-in from my wife about every other day, you know. So please stay with me, right?
We all do.
Yeah, yeah. But no,
Yeah,
it's great.
Brian, if you were in front of the current team and could give these young men a piece of advice, what might that be?
Oh, yeah. Uh, there's a couple. There's a couple. You know, I think the first thing is believe in yourself, right? And don't just you know, talk about it, but live it every day. Keep it fresh in your mind, because if when you stop or have some doubts, that's when bad things happen in your life. But if you constantly believe in yourself, reinvest in yourself over and over, you know, good things are going to come your way. Just never give up on it. And you know, and the you know the second thing, you know, you have we talked a little bit about the, you know, the death and the taxes and being the absolutes. That's the other thing that I would say in life and in your career and your marriage and your faith, whatever the scenario is, there's no absolutes. There's only the data sets and the facts that you have at the time and the circumstances that are available at the time to make those decisions and for that are going to impact your life. And so you can go back in a couple of years, look back and say, gosh, I should have done something differently. But based on the data that you had and the facts that you had at the time, you probably made, if you thought through it, you probably made the right decision for yourself at that time. But always be prepared to look back on data facts and say, hey, was that decision right? You know, always question yourself from the standpoint of your beliefs, right? Test your own beliefs. Make sure that they're there, that they're strong, that they're convictions. You know, the old saying, in life you juggle 4 balls, and 3 of them are crystal and one's rubber, right? And you know, you have your friends and your family and your faith, and those are all crystal balls, and then you have your work career, and that's the rubber ball. Well, you know, drop one of the crystal balls, watch, and that breaks, but you drop the work ball, and it's going to bounce back up to you. And so the amount of time that you're going to spend in your life, spend it on the 3 crystal balls, and I think that you'll get the outcome that you want with the rubber ball. So
Great
now,
advice, Brian. That's good. That's solid stuff. And, you know, I'll just wrap it up by saying, you know, we have a strong network of Coyote Brotherhood members. And if you have not been to the website, there's a directory up in the top of the screen and the navigation bar. There's a directory of Brotherhood members. There's also the roster form. If you're not on that directory, we'll want to add you to it. But each one of the guys that you're seeing on the screen and each one of the guys in that directory knows about 250 people. And I had a chance to meet Brian. I didn't know him because he played before me. He's much older than I am. You know, he's just a few years older. But we got a chance to catch up.
all right.
We had a chance to catch up and have a coffee together and get to know each other, and to be able to come into contact with a guy with his level of experience and with his level of contacts. You know, I haven't tapped into any of those particular contacts. Just got a chance to make a new friend. But now I've got a guy that if I needed something, or if I needed to talk to somebody that knew somebody in different places, Brian would be a guy that I could reach out to. And that's one of the values of being a part of this brotherhood. It's not just for getting together and, you know, drinking down there at the old lumber supply. It's about having great relationships and great friendships and even mentorships and connections. So take a look at the website if you haven't been there already, and get on that roster form if you're not listed in the directory. And Brian, we sure appreciate you, and thanks for being a great member of the Coyote Brotherhood.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Brian.
You bet.